Welcome to the Shrink Down. Today we're going to be doing a pop culture roundup, or we might call this Pop Bites. We haven't decided yet. This is where we each bring up a article, a topic, something we've seen in social media that doesn't quite require a full 45-minute episode, but just something that we each thought was interesting that we just wanted to chat about. So we've each picked something for today. Before we do that, though, we're going to quickly do our 4-minute faves. And I'll start today. So I'm sharing something that's pretty quick and easy. I was trying to think of what I wanted to share, and I've had a couple people ask me about this. So I'm going to share my Loopy case. So it's a phone case that has the little like finger hook in it. You see a lot of Instagrammers. That's where I saw this. People I follow who recommend this. A lot of them are taking, I think, selfies with this.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
do not take selfies, but I like this because I constantly have it like in my hand and doing 500, carrying the laundry basket and the books and the toys. And so I like it because it doesn't fall off my finger.
Yeah.
And when I do
Mhm.
occasionally take a group photo, it is kind of nice to have that because it stays on your finger. So if you are in the market for a new phone case, I highly recommend the Loopy case. I will say the one thing I don't like is that if you do the charging where you just like place it on top of like a charging station, you
Oh.
have to take it off
Mhm.
because this gets in the way. So I would
Mm.
say that's like the only annoying
Mm.
thing is that you have to take it off if you do like a charging station, but it plugs in just regularly. So I really do like my Loopy case.
So I have a pop socket
Mm-hmm.
and love it for the same reason. Like I can't even hold my phone without it because I so often am holding it like this for pictures. Like when we've done our group selfies, like when we were in Charlotte, we were trying to do it and I didn't have this. I'm like, I don't know how to even take this without my little like grip. And this one it comes off for charging.
Mm,
But
that's nice.
I saw your loop because I was like, oh, that's nice and subtle. My pop
Yeah,
socket
it's like a
is
small,
big.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice. All right. Who wants to share next?
I will go. So I'm going to, I know last week I talked about a show, but I was able to catch up on some shows. So I'm actually going to bring up another show that I've been liking. This is Running Point
Yeah. Kate
on
Hudson?
Netflix.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have loved Kate Hudson like
Oh, I saw.
forever.
Yeah.
And she hasn't done much recently. Like she's done
No.
like a few things.
Yeah.
She did the Knives Out sequel but she hasn't been out and about in the movies as much. So I saw a quick little blurb about it and it said if you liked Nobody Wants This, like this
Mhm,
is the show for you. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know, 10 episodes and they're 30 minutes each. So it's a quick, fast watch, very enjoyable. It's created by Mindy Kaling. And it's a fictionalized version, I guess, of the woman who is the owner of the LA Lakers.
Jeannie Buss.
Yes. And so it isn't her, but
She like consulted on it.
yes.
Mhm.
So Kate Hudson becomes, after her brother has a comedic accident related to drug use, she becomes the next owner of the LA Waves. And no one sort of thinks she can do it. And of course, she sort of shows them that she can, but she does it differently. And it's very fun, very cute. There's some familiar faces. I'm not done with it yet, but it's a nice little thing to pop on and feel good. Nothing intense or dramatic, but just fun.
Don't have to think.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
What's that on?
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah. I'll go.
Okay.
So I'm sharing the book I actually read on our vacation, and I thought it was perfect timing because I know people are getting geared up for spring breaks and trips and things like that. So this is a super easy, you might even think of it as like a beach read, but it's not. Elin Hildebrand, and it's called The 5-Star Weekend. She's the author that does all her books based out of Nantucket. So she sets a really pretty scene, which I kind of love. But this book in particular was really, really good. There's a main character, but she brings together 5 women, each from a different decade of her life. So they're in their 50s. And it goes through each one of their stories. They all have something going on. One more interesting than the next. And they all kind of come together for the weekend. And so it goes through different perspectives and different things that they're going through. And it was a really easy read, but fun read. So highly recommend for a good vacation book.
And it's like it brought up a fun discussion for us on our trip. We were walking and you talked about it, and then we were talking about what it would be like if we brought together friends from our decades, and like would that be awesome and amazing? Like would that be a complete
disaster?
So it was a fun
it's kind of a cool concept.
Yeah.
So highly recommend.
Terry?
Okay, so mine is a candy from Trader Joe's called Teensy Candy Bars. And it says on here actual size, and they are mini Snickers.
Oh,
so
fun.
They're slightly bigger than my thumbnail.
Oh my gosh, they're so cute.
They're so cute. My younger son Tommy and I discovered them at Trader Joe's. And when we do movies at home, we'll do popcorn mixed with candy. Usually it's some kind of sour fruity candy. These are perfect to sort of sprinkle in because they're mini candy bars.
Ooh,
they are so good. We got 2 bags of them. I think there's maybe like 3 left in the second bag. And they're just so fun and easy for a movie snack. You can just dump them in with like fruity candy, sour candy, whatever, popcorn at Trader Joe's.
Love Trader Joe's.
Teensy candy bars.
And do they taste like Snickers?
They do. And even though they're Snickers is one of my favorite candy bars, so I'm going to be partial to it anyways. Yeah. And you would think they're too little to taste like to be legit like a Snickers, but they are good. They're not too tiny, but they're so cute.
Yeah.
Trader Joe's has the best
I like that.
Snacks. We always go there for our snacks.
Yes.
Such good stuff at Trader Joe's. Well, good. All right. So we are going to be doing our Pop Bites Pop Culture Roundup. Anyone want to go first?
I can go first. Okay. So I sent you guys this article within the last week, and it was a little clip that I think had been on like the Today Show or CBS Morning Show, one of those shows. Yeah. And it was a study that came out in like the Journal for Addictive Behaviors that parental permission to use alcohol with teens and kids. So even like, just have a sip, or as they get older, like, you can have like a glass, you're 18 before
as long
you go
as
to
you're
college.
with me.
As long as you're with me. I've even heard of parents who are like, well, I let kids kind of have drinks at my house.
Like providing it.
Yes. And
I take all the keys. And everyone stays in the basement.
I mean, I think doesn't it go back to like Mean Girls?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have.
Did any of you have parents who did this?
No.
Yes. We were kids. I didn't.
I didn't.
I didn't either.
Yeah. Vanessa and I are like, nope.
We can talk about that, but finish your thought.
Yes. So it is that doing this, which has been thought to be sort of a protective thing for kids, like they'll be less inclined to go off and like binge drink or have drinking issues. They'll kind of like know it won't have the allure of like something forbidden. That is not the case. What they have found is that is linked to heavy drinking and alcohol related like problems. And again, this is not, it's not a causation, but it is a heavy, statistically significant correlation. Yeah. So they had Lisa DeMore on. I know we've mentioned her many times on the podcast. And she basically said that this is not the harm reduction technique we thought it was. Like this is not that just being a parent and modeling what you want your kids to do with alcohol is much better than giving it to them. So like she said, modeling a healthy relationship with alcohol, whatever that means, moderation or none. Don't drink to like calm down or like, I had such a bad day, I'm going to have a glass of wine. Like don't promote that. And also show that you can have fun without alcohol. Yeah. Like don't just like all of your fun social activities involve alcohol. That's what they're going to see. And then that's what they're going to do. So she said, that's actually the most protective thing you can do for kids. And so I just put it out there to you guys. And I was like, what do we think about this?
So I grew up in a community where that was more of the norm. So even in mid to late 90s, and even when I started practicing in Naperville, which is a large western suburb west of Chicago, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I was at a group practice there and worked with a lot of teenagers whose parents would do this. And I was aware of it as the therapist. And I, until maybe 10 years ago, actually thought it made sense. And I remember thinking as a teenager myself, like, yes, this makes sense. And then even as a practicing clinician, as an adult, not yet a parent, but I remember thinking this is sort of a harm reduction strategy where if they're going to drink anyways, might as well drink in the safety of your basement with an adult home. No one's being allowed to drive home. And I do remember thinking positively about that as a strategy
Yeah, me
because
too.
it intuitively made sense to me.
You know, I think it's interesting because when I was thinking about, like, when you're describing this, Wilhelmina, I'm like trying to get myself into the head of a parent that is offering this.
I
And
was just
I was thinking, like, I wonder if they think, because I could see this, that they're sort of promoting what people in Europe they have
Yes.
but I wonder
Yes.
if they think they're promoting a healthy relationship with alcohol, but in the way that people in Europe do it. But it's so different because it's such a different part of their life. And there aren't these over 21 and like there aren't like actual laws in place. So it's a completely different perspective, approach. It means something totally different there. So it works there.
Well,
Yes.
Right.
I
Like,
think it goes back
so
to
it's,
what Mina was saying, that in the modeling of
yeah.
the parent drinking is what I think it happens in
That's what
Europe,
they're
is what you're
doing.
saying.
They're
Yeah, they're
modeling, but I
modeling
could
like
see
the
how
good.
in a parent's head over here in America, we think we're modeling, but that's not what you're doing. You're giving them permission, which is a very confusing message. So I'm glad this research is out there because I do think that parents with the best of intentions, yeah, you're confusing the message.
And
I was actually thinking about, like, so my parents would never have condoned that.
Oh,
So
Nor would my mom.
I'm just thinking, like, is there a difference though between the parents who think that that's a good idea and have done that or do that, and the parents who are like, absolutely not? Do they have like differences in their relationship with alcohol? Like, I don't like, maybe some of it is like, oh, this seems like a good idea, right? But I wonder if there's even more to it, right? And maybe not for everybody, but that there's a difference in how they view alcohol, or like based on their relationship with alcohol or their family history with alcohol. I wonder if that's because there are parents who are like, absolutely not, I would never do that,
Yeah.
right? Even if you were like, no, this is a good idea, like the exposure, right? Like I could see parents still saying like, absolutely not. So it just makes me wonder about that.
My husband and I have had this conversation, and I think we both grew up in households where that never would have happened. Like my mom didn't drink. Owen's parents, I mean, very, very occasionally, like very rarely. And so there was no sort of exposure in our household to that. And so I think for a while we even thought, well, if they want to have a sip or if whatever, like we'll let that happen. We didn't promote it, but we sort of thought if they ever ask, we'll let them have a drink.
Like
And now that,
normalizing it.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And now, of course, I see this and I'm like, nope, maybe not. And Lauren, I think what you said about the like other countries. So my sister-in-law is Italian. She's from Italy, and we've talked about drinking. And like in Italy, drinking is people do start drinking younger, but they're not binge drinking.
Right.
That's the thing.
It's
They're
like,
not binge
it's
drinking.
like milk.
Yes.
They put it on the table with a carafe of water also.
Right.
And
they have like a glass.
And you have
so it's the meaning.
You have
so it's
a
the
glass.
meaning.
Right. Nobody's finishing bottles in Italy.
It's the meaning associated with it.
Different
And
relationship.
that's where the messaging, I think, gets very confusing. So I think this research is good. It's important. Hopefully it'll be incredibly helpful.
Yes.
For parents trying to make that decision or navigate that decision. But interesting that this research hasn't been done. I think the thing that interested me most when you sent it, I was like, oh, how has this not been done yet? Like, wow. Like,
well, I think there's certain topics people don't want to research. And then I do think, and I will say,
not popular.
Yes, is that Italy is more of an outlier when it comes to the European countries, because in Ireland, England, and Germany, where there is you're allowed to drink at any age, there are higher rates of alcoholism.
It's true.
And
France, I'd put in that Italy category too.
Yes,
they just have a different appreciation for it. Yeah.
Right. The three countries that are often brought up when we allow people to practice moderation and drink at younger ages, earlier than 21, it's Germany, Ireland, and England. Those 3 countries actually have higher rates of alcoholism. And they've often pointed to the behaviors that the younger you are when you start drinking, the more likely you are to develop alcohol use disorder.
Yeah.
So that's been a pretty well researched, reliable statistic. So.
It's like we're trying to protect our kids, but we're sending them out to the world where it is promoted to do all of these things. So it's like, it's not protecting them because
Best of intentions.
we're not living in Italy. We're not living in a place where that is what the world does. You know,
To move to Italy.
Move to, there we go. Yes. Hey, that would, from last week's episode, maybe that would help with the, rest, slow down. Yeah.
That's exactly right. We could combine those episodes.
Yes.
All right. I'll go next. So I sent you guys a social media post that was actually based on an article that was written by Liz Plank. It was called "We Stopped Clubbing, but We Need to Bring It Back. Millennials grew up on a dance floor while Gen Z is growing up on their phones." So I thought this was a really
going out topic. Go out.
Yeah. Jeans and
a nice top.
I mean, so it made me laugh. I mean, that's a long title, but I read the article and she brought up some really good points. And some of these things we've kind of talked about, like the difference, about, how when we were younger, we went out with our friends, and it seems like more and more kids are just home on their phones. But I thought, the club concept was actually a really good one. I mean, all of us went clubbing, some more than others. I will say I probably went the most.
I didn't ever go clubbing.
So at some point,
we went to the bar.
No, we went to the club. We went to the remember for the Halloween?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Was it Reeve Gauche? Where were you like?
Yes.
And you won the costume contest.
I did.
And that was, I would say that was clubbing.
Yeah, okay.
So I did go.
I would piggyback that. I went to a fair amount of bars, some clubs, and I went to a lot of live concerts and shows, which nowadays it seems like people only go to big concerts like Taylor Swift, Pink.
Talking about like vacation money concerts.
When I was growing up, me and my friends went to local shows all the time. And it doesn't seem like people do. And I think that goes sort of with clubbing, like going out.
So it's
like going out.
So the article brought up that in this article, she says I don't know why, but she only had UK stats. I tried to look up US. It wasn't quite available, but in the UK, there was 400 nightclubs that shut down between 2020 and 2023. And so you might think COVID, but they actually said it's not COVID. And part of the problem was just, cost of living. So like drinks are $18, covers like $40. So that was part of it. But she brought up some really good points about what happened, at the club, which you could say the same about a bar or a concert, or like I was even thinking about like when I used to go to raves, like, you went there with your friends and you weren't on your phone, right? You were engaging with your friends. As you get older, it was a way to like meet people. She refers to it as like the original kind of like dating app, right? You go to a bar, a club with your friends, and you meet a guy, and maybe you were just there to hook up, and that was okay. So there was a lot of experiences that you got out of going to the club. And again, I think she's using the club as almost like a metaphor to like being out in public,
like going out
with your friends, right? So you would, I can remember going, I didn't know who was going to be there, but I was like, somebody I know is going to be there. And just going with a friend. You didn't know if you were going to have, you're like, oh, someone I know is going to meet there. And if not, she mentioned, and I thought this was hilarious because I'm sure we've all had this experience about being in a girl's bathroom line and having a therapy moment, right? Like you meet this girl and she's sobbing about her boyfriend, or, there's some, standing in the bathroom, you met rando people and you had these hilarious.
I love you. I love you too.
And then you never
temporary best friend.
Yes. And you'd never see them again. I mean, all of these things are part of like your social experience. So I thought it was a really good article from the sense of like reminding people about the importance and all the benefits you get out of being social and going out. And it made me think about our 2 last trips. So we talked about this last time about how we asked people in Charlotte, where do you go out? And they were like, what? And I think part of it is, yes, I think Charlotte is a sleepy town, but I also think that young people aren't really doing that. So I don't think there's as many options. And then it also made me think about our trip to Savannah and the age difference. You guys know what I'm about to talk about. So we went to that bar. So usually on our trips, we try to have one night where we like go out, maybe dancing, drinking. So we found this bar that had, a slide in it. It was like this whole thing.
It was beautiful.
And It was
There was like a
gorgeous.
view.
The good
Yeah.
Yes, it was so good. It was like half indoor, half
gorgeous.
outdoor.
Yes.
I will say we had a blast.
We did.
We danced so much, but what we noticed was there was several groups of younger girls there,
Yep.
and they weren't dancing. In fact, they were sitting on the sofas almost the whole night, just snapping selfies.
Yes.
Mhm.
And we thought it was so wild. We're
It
like,
was bizarre.
it's so bizarre. You guys remember that?
It was bizarre.
We were like, at times, we were like, it was us and like maybe another group of women our age that were like out on the floor dancing.
Yes.
And we were like, okay, well, we're having fun. Like,
And
okay.
all music was music that we know. And she brings us up like nobody, like they don't have music like we did. Like we have
No.
like, you know, these
Yeah,
kind
the
of
music
crazy
sucks
dance
now.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the DJ was playing music. We
That
all
kind
knew
of-
all the
yes.
songs.
Yes.
You know, we are going down the slide. Our 40-something-year-old asses are going down the slide, laughing, being hysterical. We were just having fun. Didn't care what anyone thought or saw. And
I will
younger
say
kids
this,
were not.
and I can say this because my husband knows this, that, you know, we met a group of younger guys who we were just
Yep.
chatting with and
Yep.
dancing with
Yeah.
and hanging with. And one reached out to me about meeting up that night, you know, and wanted my number. And I'm like, because there's nobody, none of those girls were around to talk to,
Yes.
talk to them.
Yes. Well, and
So-
that has happened to us multiple times on trips. And like where we do have this group and they're always like little younger guys
Very
like
young.
that come up to us a lot like younger, just trying to, you know.
I know.
And Lauren, you got one that would like asked you like, where are you girls? Like
Yeah.
of my age. And
where
we're like,
they exist.
where
at
do they
any
exist?
age.
Like,
Oh, I was being a therapist in the moment. Yeah.
But I think that they see us just like doing, Vanessa, just to your point, what you said, like having fun, not caring, but that is not what these younger
Mhm.
like kids are seeing. They're seeing these girls that are sitting on the couch taking selfies.
Who
Yeah.
don't
So you
look
said
approachable.
something-
That's not approachable.
You
No.
said something interesting about I'm not going to get it right, Vanessa, but you said something about what she said of like she was kind of writing this to remind people
Yeah.
about the social experience, but
Yeah.
how do you remind people when they've never had it? So
Right.
that's like part of the problem is like we
Yeah.
can understand and connect with this concept in a really
Yeah.
real way. Because that's been our social experience since we were teenagers and really kind of figuring out how to create our identity and have that independence and leave the home.
Yeah.
But they're not having that experience. And so like they don't connect. They could read this, they could listen to us talking about it. And those girls sitting on the couches, they could have cared less if we had walked up to them and said something to the effect of like, are you guys like having fun? They would have been like,
Come dance with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just I
Yeah.
worry. I don't worry, but like I wonder,
Yeah.
like they're never. Do they get it?
Yeah.
Or do they care?
I think that's such a valid point.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know if
It's
they care. I
scary.
mean, she says in her article, you know, instead of telling them less time on the phone, less scrolling, like we keep saying like stop,
Yeah.
stop, and giving them more opportunities to do. So like,
Try.
yeah. So
Yes.
she was saying like bringing back the club, you know,
Yes.
again, an example, bringing back the club, bringing
Right.
back these opportunities in the community for, you know, younger generations to really
Right.
experience that. And then
Right.
even like, you know, I think one of the things while we were on this trip, we were like, where can we go? Like, you know, occasionally, you know, the 40-something-year-olds want to go out too, like having places that like cater to them. You know, a couple years ago, there was an article that was out about, I think it was like a restaurant / like lounge bar, one of those places where you can eat dinner, but you could stay for drinks. And it was like 35 and over. And people were outraged that this owner had
I
created
love
this
that.
concept.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Where is this?
Yes,
Yeah.
I forget where it was. I forget. Yeah, it was somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And the owner was like, I don't know why they're upset. Like, this is a place that I wanted to create for this
Yeah.
more
we'll spend money,
sophisticated,
like
yes, older
Mhm.
crowd,
Mhm.
right? And 35 is not like, I'm sorry, but it's not that old, right? But they were like, people were upset, like the younger people were upset in the community because they're like, you're not including us. But so things like that. So I think, you know, again, I think the whole idea was to provide these opportunities so that they could experience that.
Mhm.
And maybe that way they'll feel more inclined to kind of seek out these opportunities. But I just thought it was a really interesting article, having, grown up in
Yeah.
that era of
Yeah.
clubs,
Yeah.
bars, parties and things.
Going
and
out.
Going out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Lauren, I think about when we moved to Chicago for
Yes.
graduate school, and we both were sort of
Didn't
new
know
to the
anyone.
city.
Yeah.
So we would get together on Saturdays. We would
Yep.
go see we would watch the Michigan
Yeah.
game, and then we would go out.
Figured
We
it
just
out.
go out. We just
We
would
had
like
no idea what we were
No.
doing.
we would
Yeah.
be like
Which are
pop
the
around.
Yeah.
best days and best nights.
best.
Are
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
are the unplanned, spontaneous,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
going out and seeing where the night takes you, the day
It's
takes
so
you.
fun.
Like,
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
All right.
All right, I'll go.
All right.
Okay. So I read an article and I loved the headline, but then I'll kind of go into why. A Rolling Stone article, and it's titled "Meghan Markle is just a girl standing in front of fans asking them to love her." And the reason that I just keep hearing about, like, why is she so divisive, and like, why is she so unlikable, and like, we want to like her, but then and so her show came out last week, and so after seeing and hearing a lot of people kind of talking about it and seeing all these things, I got onto Netflix, and you guys, it's so bad. It is unwatchable.
The reviews I read are bad.
It's so
But it got renewed for a second
bad.
season. I heard that it was so bad and it got renewed.
But I think it has more to do with the behind the scenes of like Netflix invested in her company.
Yes.
Like, it's all
They have
murky.
a contract with Netflix.
Okay, that makes sense.
The first episode, I wrote down.
Tell us what it is, because I'm so curious.
Okay, so it's like
No one watched, but I'm curious.
So so actually the guy in I don't know who wrote this Rolling Stone article. I should have the name, but the individual said it's like literally like a domestic boot camp, and she invites a friend over in this first episode, and within like 20 minutes she's harvesting honey with her beekeeper. She's making she's making a bath soak for her friend to put in his bathroom, in his guest room. She's making a tray of goodies for him to have next to his bed. She then starts making lunch for him. He finally arrives, the guest. Meanwhile, they're not at her house. They're at it like a staged home, which she does say. She says, like, this is in my home, and so I'm making this, and we're going to put it on a tray to take it to the home for when he actually stays at my home. But he comes to the fake house. They make lunch. They do. Oh my God, it was exhausting. Then they actually harvest the honey, and then they're making beeswax candles. Then they're decorating a cake with like flowers and things like that. It's like too much, but like the crux of it is like, even like the chaotic nature and the way the show presents is kind of, I think, the chaotic nature in which she is trying to present herself to us. And that is why I think she is so divisive. Like, she doesn't actually know who she is. So she touches on 15 different things within an episode. Meanwhile, the friend is the one that is so much more natural in front of the camera. He's a makeup artist, and he's asking her questions. She like doesn't make eye contact. She doesn't know how to have a conversation with him because she's so invested in whatever little task she's doing. She doesn't
And I'm sure her image, like,
she doesn't give you the ingredient, like, she doesn't give you measurements to the pasta she's making, which I'm like, are we supposed to make this, or are we just watching you make this? Like, it's so like, you want to like her.
Does she seem authentic at all?
No, that's the problem. And I think that's always been the problem with her.
Yes.
Or, and this is so weird, and you start reading articles, it's like, or are we all, there's a lot of suggestion that like the UK, they're racist against her and those kinds of things. Like, are we all biased against her because that's how the media has but then I'm telling you, I watched and I wanted to like the show.
Can be true at the same time.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
I really try not to have opinions of whether I like famous people, because I don't know them. Like, that's just my perception.
We don't know them.
I try not to I really don't try to have not opinion. But I saw, and I told you guys this, a clip of her talking to Mindy Kaling. I think she was interviewing her.
Okay.
And
this
Mindy
was
Kaling
so
said,
awkward.
It calls her Meghan Markle, and she stops and says, I think it's so funny that you keep calling me Meghan Markle. My name is Meghan Sussex.
But here's the thing. It's not actually that.
I know. But
And
I was
that's
just like,
so
why
Didn't
would
they take that away from her?
it's from one of the episodes.
Okay.
It's Mindy is in an episode with her, and she's trying to have a conversation. So this is where in this article, the Rolling Stone is like, so often the guests are more authentic than her.
Mm.
And it's uncomfortable to watch because the guests end up essentially interviewing Megan when it really should be the other way around.
Yeah, I felt like she was interviewed. I thought Mindy was.
She was on the show. She's like in the second episode. She's the guest, and she, instead of like making it a funny moment. So what Mindy was saying was, oh my gosh, people wouldn't believe that Meghan Markle loves Jack in the Box. Like she was trying to like just make it like a humanizing moment. She was actually trying to help Meghan.
Yeah.
And
And
then
instead
Meghan,
of being like, I know I love fast food, like, oh my gosh, it's my favorite, I love a burger and fries, she corrected her on, actually, my last name is Sussex, when really, like, actually, it's like Mountbatten. Like, her actual last name is not Sussex. Like, the whole thing is, I think, like, why people have such a hard time with her. It's like, to Vanessa's point, we don't know her.
Right. But then
she
you
wants
see
us
clips
to
of
know
things
her.
like this, right? When you see clips like
she
that,
keeps
you're kinda
putting
like,
herself out there, and it's like, did you want to just go away from this life and have like this authentic life with your husband and your kids? Then go do that. But when you keep putting yourself in these situations and in front of the camera, then you're going to have opinions on. In the show, it's so chaotic. I'm like, wait, are we making beeswax candles out of honey? Are we making a cake? Are we making baskets? But then there's no recipes for anything, which for somebody like me, I'm like, give me like on the side, like half a cup. What are we doing?
She strikes me as somebody who is always engaging in impression management.
Mm-hmm.
Every pose, every picture, every outfit,
so inauthentic.
She comes off, again, I agree with Vanessa, like we don't know her, etc. But and I know some of you disagree, some of you agree. I'm gonna throw Blake Lively in this same category of people lately. Not before.
Like
I feel
inauthentic nature.
All of a sudden, and again, it's probably some of the news media and the other things coming out. Her and Ryan Reynolds is a package deal, similar to Meghan Markle. It seems they're like that fake whatever Ryan Reynolds was doing, where he hired people to do autographs when he came out because it was the same guy having him sign an autograph.
She just did that this weekend.
Yeah, it's the same thing where when you see them in public, again, positions they are putting themselves in purposefully. It seems like everything is so curated and posed and factitious. It just, I don't know. It doesn't come. So it comes off as very disingenuous.
The writer of the article said like she has this inability to just kind of like speak from the heart. Yeah. So they put some of the things that the quotes she said, it's not deep, but it's thoughtful. And like she kept saying like, and it was like you're watching it, you're like, what are you talking about? And then
what the hell are you talking
saying about? Like how things don't have to be perfect, and then presents like a perfect crudité platter. No. And the friend is like, it looks pretty perfect to me. Like in the way he said it was like kind of how you felt, was like, why are you saying, it just is like that inauthentic nature, and you're putting that out.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Yeah. She's wearing
it's
a white shirt while cooking pasta. And I'm like, come on.
Like, they're trying so hard. They're trying so hard.
I saw a clip that was like, and it was like, Meghan Markle is trying to make herself so relatable, and yet so relatable, and it is so unrelatable. Yeah, like this show is just like
it's a perfect way of saying it.
Yes, and it's like, I guess on like a small level, it'd be like if we're out and about and we're trying to meet people, and it's like, oh, this is Wilhelmina, and it's like, no, I'm sorry, it's Dr. Shoger, but you're in like a social setting, like right. It's like no,
we don't do that.
We don't do that.
No, we don't do that. Like
no.
Yes, that is. It really is, and it's a tough watch. So there's 2 seasons of a tough watch out there. If you're
sounds
ever
like it's a fun hate watch.
So there's that. I mean, and it's beautiful. The setting is gorgeous. Whatever house they're renting in Montecito, that's not hers, is incredible.
That is just
the things she makes are beautiful. So you could watch it on mute and like look at all the pretty. They make a balloon arch, and there's no kids at. They're making a balloon arch for a kid's party, but then there's no kids. Like it's all like very like what do you do? It doesn't make sense. So anyway, I'm glad to see that we're all
spaghetti at the wall and being like, what sticks? What do people like?
It's like
none of it.
Oh my God.
Right. So anyhow, Terry, finish us up.
Okay. So mine is not to be a Debbie Downer, but it's all over the news. And he's not even really of, he's, very famous actor. So Gene Hackman, the
Yeah.
loss of Gene Hackman and
Oof.
his wife recently in New Mexico
Mm.
has been all over the news, right? When
All
it
over.
happened. Yeah, it happened right before the
Yeah.
Oscars. There was a
Yep.
tribute to him. And then more information has come out as to how they passed. And one, it's everywhere. So I feel like, it's one to touch on.
Yeah.
But also, what's come out is that the wife, who's 30 years younger than him, I think in her mid 60s, he was
Mhm.
95, passed
Yeah.
away first, actually, about a week before he
Ugh.
did. And he had been in late end stage Alzheimer's. And he had spent almost a week by himself in the house. She was his primary caregiver. She had passed from hantavirus, which is caused by mice
And like
droppings.
rats.
Yeah,
Yes.
rats and stuff. So she had passed, and then he spent this week alone
Oh
doing
God.
who knows
That's
what.
It's so sad.
heartbreaking.
It's so sad, and I think makes us all realize that the best laid plans, or however you think
Yeah.
things are going to pan out as you
Mhm.
plan for the twilight of your life, the
Yeah.
final, as Charles
Mhm.
Barkley says, the 17th and 18th holes. If you ever hear Charles Barkley talk
I
about
love him.
his retirement in life, because he said,
His life.
he goes, I don't know if I'm on the 16th hole or the 17th hole. There's no way to know. You just
Right.
sort of have to plan.
So true.
And I
Yeah.
imagine
So true.
with their 30-year age gap, the plan was that he would go first and she would
Right.
be
Yeah.
his caretaker.
Mhm.
So I think, and I know Gene Hackman has adult children and grandchildren from his first marriage. And obviously, we don't have a sense of how involved they were, but they lived this very secluded life in New Mexico. And I just think the news story was very striking and has
Yeah.
really stuck with me, just in that you really try to craft what you think things are going to be like. And then also never knowing what you're going to die from, which even goes a level
Or
deeper.
when,
Or
right?
when.
Like
Yes.
I think she was 63. I mean, that's
Young.
not old. I mean, I
Yeah.
think
No.
all of our parents are older than that.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
You just never
Mhm.
know. And I was telling you guys earlier, it made me think some parts of that story about, my stepmom and my dad. My stepmom was in her 50s. She's younger than my dad. And we all, we're in our heads, like we never said out loud. We're like, oh, she's totally gonna outlive my dad, right? And she became, ill with a, brain tumor and passed away, right? And that was something, and my dad became her caretaker. And
Yeah.
that was unexpected because she had always been my dad's kind of, he has some, health issues, nothing, that's he's going to die from, but she was always kind of like reminding him to take his meds and reminding him about his appointments, and all of a sudden it became this reverse role. And then she passed away and she was 54. So, you just never know. It's
You don't.
really wild.
And I know we've talked about this with regards to the story, is what, like, why was no one calling? Like, why weren't his kids calling? Did she not have friends that were like, wait, we haven't heard from her? And it really is sort of like, where were the checks and balances of sort of like,
Yeah.
okay, you want to live kind of your little life out in the desert. Okay. But maybe it goes back to what we were talking about last week, that connection and isolation.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
there are
totally.
many downsides to it. And I mean, I think about this with my mom. Like, my mom is 83, and I try to connect with her at least once a day, just to make sure,
Yeah.
and she had missed like a bridge with some of her local friends, and they actually called my business line. And my business
I
manager
love that.
called me and said, hey, we got this message. Your mom didn't show up for bridge, and they were worried, and they didn't have your number. So they found you online.
Aw.
And I thankfully I'd talked to her soon enough that I was like, oh, and I called my mom, and she was like, oh my gosh, no. But I was so thankful that played out that way, because I was like, okay,
Right.
there's a checks and balances.
Yep.
Right.
I
Yep.
But
think
your mom has like a social, like
Right.
going back
Yes.
to like, she is socially
Very
connected, right?
social.
To
Yes.
friends, and she has you, right? So,
Yes.
so that connection again, I think is really important that people
It
continue to
has
have.
to be in place.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think it also brings to our attention more details about when people live off the grid or
Mhm.
close to that, when they
Right.
sort of live on the
Yeah.
fringe. And, when you are an Oscar winning actor living in Hollywood and then decide to retreat to New Mexico. And I read some news article where it said the it was at the end of a cul-de-sac. It was this secluded neighborhood, and they described the house as barn-like. And and that the wife was found near a space heater. So that makes me wonder what in like indoors, the space heater. So it makes
Yeah.
me wonder what type of home they were living in.
Mhm.
And if you really sort of live off the grid, and if this is how it goes. And again, to be 95 and not have any type of professional caregiving in the home, even nursing, popping in once a week or,
Yeah.
every couple days or something. I mean, she was clearly his main and only caretaker. And if that
And
is
there
your
was
setup,
nothing as a backup.
yes, exactly. Like if that's your setup,
Oh.
this is what can happen. So maybe it's also a lesson learned, maybe in some ways, where you have systems in place and you have tiers.
I mean, 95 and at the late
Late
staged
stage. Yeah.
Alzheimer's, that's a lot of care.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
lots of care. You
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that is showering,
Mhm.
toilets,
The feeding.
feeding.
Yeah.
So I'm
Mhm.
like, it's hard to think that she could do that all,
I
even
don't
at
think,
her best of health. Like, it's sort of like, and why would she have wanted to? I'm sure they
Right.
had enough money to have someone come in and
Yeah.
help,
Right.
provide some help.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of my grandma who's the same age, and she lives in her own home, and like she's not late onset, she doesn't have Alzheimer's, at least not late onset. She's forgetful at times, but I think that just kind of comes with being 95, and she
Yeah.
has caretakers in the home 24/7. Like she
Yeah.
needs help, and she doesn't have that. So I can only imagine how much support she was providing him. And that's hard to imagine that one person, because like my grandma is someone who comes in and like cooks all the meals. She has another person who stays at night with her, and then another person who helps clean that, right? And like my grandma's not a famous Hollywood person, right? So
Right.
it's just a normal 95-year-old
Little old lady
Yes.
living in Brazil.
yes, who has help. So I can't imagine. She must have been so overwhelmed. Is all I
Yes.
can think is.
Cooking the meals, cleaning the house. I mean,
And then they had multiple pets, caring for pets.
Yeah.
We've all had a pet, or we
Yeah.
have a pet, like at some point, like that's like another thing to take care of. So
I think that's
can't even.
probably why the story has struck us, Terry, and why it's everywhere. Why there are so many articles being written about it 2 weeks later is because everybody
It's
feels
atypical.
some
It's like,
kind of
yes.
personal. Yes.
Yeah.
It just strikes people, and hopefully for good. I mean,
Right.
if we can all kind of keep in mind the people in our lives and make sure that doesn't happen. The setup is not that. Why it was that way, who knows what choices they made, but I think that's probably why it struck us all, that it's just so
tragic and
ordinary.
sad,
Yes.
and
Ugh.
could have been prevented. Like that end, the way that it played out could have looked different.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you never know. Like, I think people think, oh, well, they had, he had adult children, but I think it's a good reminder that, who knows what their relationship was like. And so maybe as a neighbor, like a neighbor in that cul-de-sac, maybe then you become more aware of your neighbors and say, hey,
Have I seen them?
Have I seen them? And especially if you have a neighbor who's elderly, kind of reaching out and, extending that kind of,
community.
yes. And I think it's just a nice reminder of that you can't just assume because someone has family that family is just gonna, they'll take care of it.
Such a good point.
Yeah.
Connectedness. We've got this theme over the last couple episodes of being connected.
Find your people.
Find your
Keep your community. Yeah.
That's
Get your club going.
Yes.
If you're over 35.
I was thinking, I was like, you guys, we should open a club. Like we should get this.
We'd make some money.
I know, right?
It's a good concept.
Right?
I was like, I love that.
There's a
We'll
market.
open one in Chicago,
The music
Baltimore,
can't be
Michigan.
too loud.
Yes.
The music at an acceptable level.
Yes.
Places
food
to
menu.
sit,
Right.
a place to dance, but they're separate, so you can sit and talk. Unlike that one restaurant we went in, we're like, we can't even hear each other. We can't stay here.
That waiter was probably like, how old are those women? We're like, it's too
We're like,
loud in
sorry,
here.
we gotta go.
Too loud.
Oh my goodness. All right. Any more thoughts on any of our topics from today? Awesome. Well, it was good talking to you, ladies.
Yeah, this
All
was a
right.
fun one.
Yes. Well, please join us next time on The Shrink Down.